The amounts involved, the favors done, and the significant number of times it was done require an expedited investigation by a special prosecutor immediately.
Right.
Donald Trump's latest attack.
I am so glad the cameras don't roll during break. Holy
They
cow.
might.
That was an especially good.
That was
that
pucker's just going in the net.
Holy cow.
Real Alex
exactly.
are live.
Thank you, Alex.
Someday in the twilight of our careers, that will be the show. Just put that on the air.
Because it will be the twilight.
That's what I mean.
It will bring about the twilight.
That would be the end.
That's the end.
Good night.
Anyway, you just heard Donald Trump there. His latest attack, not just a public punch, but likely a personal one as well. Hillary Clinton is reportedly still stung by the fallout from the Whitewater controversy when she was forced to back down on her resistance to having a special prosecutor investigate her financial dealings in Arkansas. As First Lady in 1994, she held an unusual marathon news conference at the White House, trying to put the issue to rest.
You were reported to have opposed a special prosecutor, at least in the beginning, and some of the release of tax documents on the basis of privacy, that you felt you had a right to privacy. Do you think that that helped to create any impression that you were trying to hide something?
Yes, I do. And I think that is probably one of the things that I regret most. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. I do feel like I've always been a fairly private person leading a public life, led me to perhaps be less understanding than I needed to of both the press and the public's interest as well as right to know things about my husband and me.
Well, that was 94. At least she's learned her lesson. That was the intervening.
This is the last press conference.
In the intervening 22 years. That was her last press conference, by the way.
In 1994, you saw a dogged young reporter on the front row there.
Yeah.
She's with us now from Washington. NBC News chief foreign affairs correspondent, host of Andrea Mitchell Reports. Andrea, good morning.
Good morning. That was my younger sister.
Yes.
the evil twin. Wow. That does take you back, doesn't it? And look, I do think that it's very interesting that you pulled this up, because I do think that all of those experiences informed and shaped her resistance to scrutiny, arguably even the fact that she ended up with the private server after all of those years of investigations and the special prosecutor and Ken Starr, which she resisted until the last moment and didn't agree to. It was announced when the president was we were in Moscow for a summit with Boris Yeltsin, and that's when they announced it. I think the president wanted to be as far away as possible from the First Lady when he finally caved in and agreed to the special prosecutor, which she had said it was going to lead to no good because it didn't turn up anything on Whitewater, but it did turn up, of course, his faulty deposition on Paula Jones, and that's what led to the impeachment. So she has a very, very uncomfortable and painful history here.
And you've been there on the front row to see all of it. Andrea Mitchell, thank you so much. Joining us now from the Clinton campaign headquarters in Brooklyn, Clinton campaign manager Robbie Mook. Robbie, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Let's dial right into this AP report from yesterday that more than half of Secretary Clinton's non-government meetings as Secretary of State were with donors to the Clinton Foundation. The number is 85 out of 154 people. I know you at the campaign say this report misses a lot of the meetings she had, but we're talking here, according to the AP, about people outside the government who gave money to the Clinton Foundation and then got access to the Secretary of State. How do you respond?
Well, as you pointed out, by our count, there were over 1,700 other meetings that she had. You know, she was Secretary of State. She was meeting with foreign officials and government officials constantly. So to pull all of them out of the equation, cherry pick a very small number of meetings is pretty outrageous. But let's also look at some of the people involved here. For example, Melinda Gates. She and Bill Gates were donors to the Clinton Foundation. They're also recognized around the world as experts at public health issues, reducing malaria. Melinda Gates was meeting with Hillary Clinton. I think that is a perfectly reasonable thing for our nation's top diplomat to do. There was a gentleman named Mohammed Yunus that the article, I think, outrageously cast shadows on a meeting with him. He is a world-renowned Nobel Prize-winning economist who's an expert on microfinance.
Robbie,
I think that makes perfect sense for her to meet with him.
I understand understand that, and their contributions to the world are unimpeachable. We agree on that. But I think the question for a lot of people is, why would Secretary Clinton, knowing that perhaps she would run for president, for example, someday, why would she set up a relationship with the Clinton Foundation where there could be any perception of wrongdoing, any perception of influence being peddled, any perception of pay for play? Why even set that up?
Well, at every juncture, the foundation set up the highest possible standards to prevent any conflict of interest, and the State Department itself has said that there was no conflict of interest. But I think it is really important. Humor me for a second. I think we got to step back and take a look at what voters are examining here. Hillary Clinton and her family had a foundation. It is charitable. They don't receive a salary from it. Donald Trump and his bottom line and his net worth are directly connected to all kinds of international entities. The Bank of China, a number of large Russian companies, Goldman Sachs. He is indebted or reliant for income on a number of these entities, and nobody's asking him to disclose or divest. Hillary Clinton doesn't have a conflict of interest with charitable work. That's all it is. So I think we need to look a lot more closely at Donald Trump if we're going to drill down this deep on Hillary Clinton.
Robbie, this is Nicole Wallace. You ask Willie to humor you. Let me ask you to humor me.
It's a deal.
I used to work on campaigns, and I would look at this as your candidate's #1 vulnerability is the fact that against someone as flawed as Donald Trump, she has a double-digit deficit on the question of honesty and trustworthiness. Isn't the antidote to this to sit her down today in front of your traveling press corps, people like Andrea Mitchell, who certainly can appreciate the contributions of people like Melinda Gates and others, and let her take questions until there are no more questions to be answered?
Well, first of all, Hillary's done over 300 interviews this year alone.
I didn't talk about interview. I know the difference between a 3-minute ground ruled interview and a press conference because I've put on a couple of each. But why wouldn't you have her do a press conference today? Just to, you have a perception problem on the question of honesty and trustworthiness. Why wouldn't you put her out there till your traveling press corps, who knows all the intricacies of sort of the defense you laid out, which is legitimate, but this is about the perception. Why wouldn't you put her out there to answer questions that she can certainly handle if your defense is true?
Well, she is out there answering questions.
She's going to do a press conference today?
She's done over 300 interviews this year, and she takes questions in a variety of formats, and we're gonna keep looking at that. I guess my pushback here is that nobody's asking Donald Trump about his foreign connections, about the people who have direct influence over him.
But I'm asking a question about why not do a press conference today as a strategy to help you eradicate the perception that there was anything shady that went down. Why not put her out today for a press conference with her traveling press corps? Would you consider that?
We're considering everything every day. She has been answering questions. She's going to continue to do that. I think all we would ask is that people don't cherry pick, 100-something meetings and then say that half of them were with Clinton Foundation donors at the exclusion of 1,700 other meetings.
Let's clarify this, because you keep talking about cherry picking. I just want to make sure that the AP at least got their definition right, which was definition of non-governmental meetings. You're not challenging that assertion, right? You're just saying they should look in total.
It was government. My understanding is it was government officials and foreign dignitaries. And I think when you're Secretary of State and you take out all the foreign dignitaries and government officials you're meeting with, it's not very many meetings. That's why, again, by our count, she had over 1,700 meetings. Right. And this article looks at 100-something of them and then points to 85, and there's a big gasp. I just think you have to recognize this as cherry picking.
Can I ask you why Nicole wants to know why she won't have a press conference. I've been asking for a couple days, why won't they just shut down the foundation today instead of having a 3-month going out of business sell where it looks like Hillary Clinton, according to the Times, has an 80% chance of being elected president, and you're saying, well, then you can give up until she's elected president. Why not just stop the donations today? Because that seems like you're giving people one last chance to buy influence.
Well, let's step back and remember what this foundation does. This is really important.
Well, no,
they
I
save lives.
understand what
they
they
save
do.
lives.
We had James Carville yesterday tell us somebody's going to hell for this. We understand, and we don't need to hear what they do. The Clintons and you and everybody.
But it matters to your question, Joe. It matters to your question because for them to just cut off everything today, right now, there are literally over 10 million people around the world who have gotten life-saving HIV and AIDS drugs from the foundation's work. To cut that off, in a day, could hurt people's lives. It could literally take away life-saving drugs. So there needs to be a transition time to make sure that the important life-saving work continues to happen. The foundation has said that it will reshift its focus. President Clinton has said he will step off the board. That's unprecedented. When George W. Bush became president, you didn't see his father step off his foundation. Our understanding is they took foreign donations. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that the standard that's being applied here is so totally different. And nobody's asking Donald Trump about his debts to Goldman Sachs, about his debts to the Bank of China, about his company's debts to these entities that affect his bottom line and create a huge conflict of interest.
Can I ask you, speaking of conflicts of interest, can I ask you really quickly as we close here? I wanted to ask you about, we've been talking about the emails between Doug Band and Huma. If I'm not mistaken, Huma was on the payroll of Teneo while she was getting those emails. Doug Band was the boss at Teneo when he was sending those emails. Bill Clinton was getting money, getting paid from Teneo when those emails were being sent. Would it be accurate to say that when Doug Band was sending those emails asking for access, that wasn't just coming from the foundation, that was actually coming from her boss? I've heard people characterize it that way. Is that correct?
No, look, Huma Abedin is a total professional.
Right.
And when you look at some of these emails, you see her sometimes saying, no, that's just not something that's going to happen.
Robbie. I'm just asking about the relationships. Was she on the payroll of Teneo while Doug Band was the principal at Teneo making these requests?
I don't know the details of what was going on in her life. What I do know is what I've seen in those emails, and it is her saying we're working through official channels. She's at times rejecting some of these meetings. The State Department itself has said there was no pay to play here. And I'll just say it again. I know you guys are humoring me. Donald Trump has such deep ties with the Russians, Bank of China, Goldman Sachs. Well, why aren't we asking about that? That's all we're asking for.
We are asking about that, but you have one thing wrong. It's not the Bank of China. It's the Bank of China. So get it right if you're going to pronounce it. What's the secretary doing today?
We'll be announcing the details of her schedule.
Okay. Okay.
I'm talking to her this morning. I can tell you that.
It's blow and
Doing
go.
a press conference. I think that.
No, she's not. Stop it. Well, I can't wait. This is exciting. It's like when I ask people what they have on the show later on today. I don't know. All right. Clinton campaign manager Robbie. Look, thank you so much for being with us. Always great talking to you.
Thank you guys so much.
All right. It's been 32 years since a presidential candidate lost by double digits. Is Donald Trump going to break the dry spell